and I've spent almost 20 years here. And we haven't breathed cleaner air or seen more beautiful skies. The bird song is just wonderful.
We can hear the birds in the background.
Yes, you can, and you will continue to through this session because I don't turn the air conditioning on anymore unless it's absolutely necessary. But it's, I think, nature has given us all the opportunity to pause a little and really understand our relationship with our environment, with nature. And I am somebody who's always enjoyed being at home, but I don't think I have spent as much time as I have in the last 110, days at home as I have during this time. Um, and it's given me a lot of time to be with my mother, to reconnect with myself, read, explore, learn, and engage, of course, with many people courtesy the internet, and also learn to um, cope with this really big change we've all had to make. And I think the other thing that I felt very deeply is gratitude. I think we're very fortunate that we are at home and we're comfortable, and we have access to the people we care and love. And I also feel very privileged for the fact that I don't have to face the enormity of the crisis that many people in our country and in the world are facing. And it's
I'm going to interrupt over here, Dia. It's 3:30 and it's time for us to start, if you allow me.
Sure.
Wonderful. So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, students, teachers, and all the participants in this wonderful webinar, the Yogananda Guru Series, episode number 44. We started the Yogananda Guru Series with the inspiration and the thought to spread knowledge and inspire all of you in these wonderful and difficult times. I'm calling it wonderful because we can share knowledge with each other. I'm so delighted to welcome the very charming Dia Mirza over here today. She's known for her beauty, of course, but I think what's most important is the brains behind it and the heart behind it. So lovely to have you over here, Dia. I'm going to request Poonam Nanda to formally introduce you and invite you to this webinar. Poonam Nanda, over to you. We can't hear you, Poonam. I think we have a challenge. No worries. So, Poonam, could you try once? No, we can't hear you, Poonam. So technology, I think that it is. So let me introduce Dia Mirza. Poonam, we can't hear you, so I think I'll have to take over till you sort it out. We have, like I said, the very charming Dia Mirza with us. We all know her as a wonderful actress. I also remember the time, Dia, that you won the fashion competitions across the world. I think you were Miss Asia Pacific, and post that you came in so many movies. I used to be a fan of yours, and I think everyone on this webinar must have been a fan of yours. I was also reading a bit about you. As I said, you've been beauty with brains. I think in the last 5 to 7 years, you've been very active with environmental issues. You've been brand ambassadors on multiple platforms, including a Swachh Bharat platform, including with the Wildlife Fund, the Asia's Tiger Conservation Program, and many other programs. We'll be talking a little bit about your acting career, but I think more importantly, we'd love to hear more about your passion, which is what you're doing today, which is about the environment. Coming from Himachal, the environment. We can hear you now, Poonam. That's
oh, great.
Right.
Okay. I'm not going to miss out on the chance to introduce you. Well, I don't think a person like Dia needs much introduction. We all know that she bagged the most prestigious Asia Pacific crown at the age of 18. And she's been a topmost model of this country. And not only that, she's a producer, a very versatile actor. I've seen a lot of her films, her web series Kafir, and then very recently Sanju and Thappad, where she played some very powerful roles. And the kind of work Diya is doing now is amazing, and she truly can be called a woman of substance. She's the United Nations Environment Goodwill Ambassador. She's a champion for beat the plastic pollution, something that we also fight for all the time. And then she's also an ambassador for Swachh Sati mission. And all I can say is I can only think of Michael Jackson's line, Diya, heal the world, make it a better place. And I think that's exactly what you're trying to do. So before we move on, Atul, if you can show Diya a little glimpse of our university and just take her through Shoolini University.
Absolutely. You know, Diya was teasing me with the sounds of the birds. And I'm going to tease Diya with our university. And hopefully you'll like what we have done over here, Diya. Give me a second. I'm going to play a video. So Diya, this was my moment of inspiration a couple of weeks back, and I made this video. So I hope you liked it.
I did. Thank you so much for having me. It was a very kind introduction, and I'm very envious of all the students and faculty who spend time at Shoolini, because it looks like just such a welcoming and rich and natural environment. It's just beautiful. I hope to be able to come there someday.
Absolutely. You know, when we speak about Diya Mirza, we speak about your first, winning the Miss Asia Pacific Award competition at the age of 18. And before I go into Q&A, I'm very tempted to play a small video on that, if you allow me, Diya. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
So I think that it'll be recollection for you, and also I think for our viewers, they'd love to see this. The video is a little patchy because it's old, but I'm sure you'll recollect all that happened so many years back.
We'd like to ask the two ladies to please move forward. Ladies and gentlemen, we have two remaining ladies, and one will be crowned Miss Asia Pacific 2000. The one I shall be calling first shall be our first runner-up.
And let us remind you that the role of the first runner-up is of tremendous importance. For if our winner could not fulfill her responsibilities and her duties as this year's Miss Asia Pacific, the first runner-up will immediately take her place.
So, ladies and gentlemen, our first runner-up is... Louder now. Miss Asia Pacific 2000 first runner-up is Miss Panama.
Our new Miss Asia Pacific 2000 is Miss India.
Miss India is our Miss Asia Pacific 2000. Dia Mirza Handrich, Miss India.
To present the first runner-up award is Avon's General Manager Malu De Puncio and reigning Miss Tourism International Pichi Manza.
Wow. So Dia, tell us, such a young age and you got so much fame. Tell us a bit about how you grew up, what you did. Tell us your life, how it was before and after winning this competition.
Wow. You are right, Atul. Winning something like the Miss India, Miss Asia Pacific, before that the Miss India, and becoming one of the 3 international winners in that year, the year 2000, it was the year of the new millennium. It was a year that held a deep amount of promise. And I will never forget when I left Hyderabad for the first time to come to Mumbai for the training program. It was the first time that I'd actually lived away from home. And I had to navigate my way, whether it was traveling in this new city or managing my finances, learning how to cope with the schedules, the pressure of training for something that would be such a public platform, something that would, usher in the opportunity to represent the country at an international platform. Then, of course, winning the international pageant made us a household name overnight. And because Lara Datta, Priyanka Chopra, and I, all 3 of us had won that year, the attention and the love that we got from the people of our country was unparalleled. I mean, I look back to some of the things that happened, whether it was the events post this thing, but before I go to my childhood, I think it's very important for me to share something here that I always share with young people, because I think it was one of my first very important lessons in life as an adult. And it really gave me the understanding of how important it is to acknowledge and have the people that we love and we care for around us. So I was alone in Manila in the Philippines at 18. I won on the 3rd of December 2000. And I remember when my name was announced and all the hoopla that followed that, which was the paparazzi, the media, the interviews, all of that. I remember wishing that someone from home was there. And it meant so much that there were Indians, there were many Indians in the audience, and they were so ecstatic. But I really felt like a winner after I arrived in India and I was received at the airport, and I felt like a real sense of joy when I saw my parents at the airport in Hyderabad, and I could share that moment of achievement with them. And I think that's a very important memory, one that helped me understand that happiness can truly exist only when you have someone to share it with. And most importantly, people that you love and admire and respect the most in life. And that would be my parents. And I was very fortunate, and I felt like a real winner only when I got to hug my parents. So I've had a very interesting childhood. It's multiracial, it's multicultural. I grew up in Hyderabad. My early school years were in a school called Vidyaranya, which means the forest of education. It was based on the philosophy of Jiddu Krishnamurti. So the school had no uniform, no examinations till class 8. There was no kind of grading, marking, or ranking system. We had sports day that everybody would participate in, and we would all get laddus and chura at the end of it. No medals, no cups, because the school's philosophy and the environment of learning was based on the understanding that you can only really learn when you are living in an atmosphere that is free of fear and working in an atmosphere that's free of fear, and if you are not competing with anyone else. That true growth, real growth, is possible when it is a personal, individual pursuit to grow, and not to be better than somebody else, but to be the best version of yourself. And my father was German. My biological father was German. My mother is Bengali. My mother's father was a professor at the Usmania University. My grandmother, I'm told from my mother's side, was a big fan of Hindi movies. So she raised 7 children and married very young. She was 14 when she got married to my grandfather. She raised 7 children, and after doing all the house chores, cooking, and taking care of all these children, apparently every weekend she would make her way to the cinema hall. I have grown up, I didn't get to meet any of my grandparents when I was a child. So I have actually grown up listening to stories about my family from my mother, who's a very, very good storyteller. And maybe I get my love of cinema from my grandmother. I often tease my mother. I say maybe I'm just a reincarnation of her. But I grew up, like I said, in a multiracial environment. My father was German. He had traveled to India on the invitation of Max Muller Bhavan. He used to conduct workshops for teachers and students. Interestingly, he also spoke about how nature and interacting with nature fostered an environment of creativity in a child's mind, and how it was so important to interact with nature to um, to nurture the spirit of inquiry, to help children become more creative. And I grew up with him making things. I learned about the planets through a board game and through marbles in different sizes that he had painted with his own hands, and he made this entire game for me with his own hands to teach me our solar system. So my childhood, my formative early years were very creative because both my parents are extremely creative people. They unfortunately separated when I was about 5. Both my parents remarried, so that was a huge readjustment, learning to adapt to this new system of living, feeling awkward and different because obviously it wasn't the usual or normal, and children also can be very difficult during such time. Of course, I learned very fast to adapt and learn and understand that people's perception of me or who I was could not define who I am. And this happened at a very young age, because it's very easy to be affected deeply by other people's judgments of you or their lack of understanding of your life situation. And while there is so many things about you that maybe growing up children see and know, but sometimes at a certain age certain events occur and people, children especially, I see grown-ups doing it now as well, but I think children can be insensitive towards each other. And I will never forget my class teacher, who encouraged me to write, start expressing myself through writing. So from being an introvert, I started becoming more of an extrovert. I started enjoying participating in plays, and my personality changed significantly after this intervention. And I think it's a very important intervention that uh, many of us underestimate the power of expressing ourselves in writing. And just being able to address what is happening, what we're feeling, it may not necessarily be with somebody else, but even if it is with ourselves on a page, it makes a big difference. And it really helped build my confidence. So through school, I participated in school plays. I was always on the sports field, playing games. I lost my father when I was 9, and that was again a very big life change that I had to accept and understand. And I was deeply attached to my father, so much so that when I was filming Lage Raho Munna Bhai, and we were trying to work out a scene where I'm talking to Sanjay Dutt's character Munna on the phone, my character says, "But he was my hero." And that was a line that I thought of because my father was my hero. So when he passed away, that was a huge emotional setback. I had to adapt and cope and learn to overcome this loss, and it was a very difficult phase of my life. But it's also very interesting, Atul, that I have the most vivid memories of my father. And even though we just had 9 years together, there are so many things that he said to me or did with me that are unforgettable. I'm going to share one very important memory that has held me in good stead through my adult life as well. So, when my parents were getting a divorce, I was sitting on the stairs of our home and waiting for my father to come back from work. There was nobody at home, ghar pe tala laga hua tha. And he came back home and he saw me sitting on the steps and he said, "What happened? Why are you looking so upset?" So I was about 5 years old. And I said, "I have too many problems." So he looked at me and he smiled and he said, "Come with me." He took me to my room and he pulled out the atlas, and he sat me on the floor and he pointed uh, the world map to me. And then he pointed India. And then he pointed Hyderabad, the city that we were living in. And I looked at him and I said, "It's just a dot." So he said, "Now can you imagine how big your problems are?" And I think that was a very powerful lesson in perspective, and one I've never forgotten. Um, so I think my teenage years living in a new home with, I don't like to call my stepfather. I like to call him my adoptive father because he was an absolutely remarkable human being. And I grew up in his house. So from the age of 5 all the way to 18, I lived in his home. And he, of course, gave me uh, a rich experience in life. I used to go swimming and horse riding and learning new things. And he was also a little strict, didn't allow us to go for movies very often. So we had to kind of plead and beg for permission and try and get that one show. Interestingly, my parents didn't buy a television till I was about 14. So the little bit of TV that I used to watch would be on the weekends. And so my form of entertainment for the large part growing up was reading books and playing games and climbing trees and spending time with the neighborhood children and my cousins. By the time I was 14 and a half, 15, I had decided that I wanted to be independent. I wanted financial independence. I wanted to go away. And it was my stepfather who encouraged me to participate in the Miss India contest. My mother, when she discovered that I'd been invited to be a part of the contest, said, "There's no way you're going, you have to finish your education." And he said, "No, let her go. It'll be a new experience. She'll learn something new. It'll make her a better person." And so after living in a very protective environment and learning and living in these I wouldn't say it was not a traditional childhood. It wasn't what you call a normal childhood, because there were just so many disruptions and changes so frequently in life that there was a lot that I had to learn to adapt to. From there to just saying that I want to gain financial independence. And the first job, interestingly, Atul, that I held was a job with a multimedia company in Hyderabad that I started off as a summer job. So I wanted to, before starting junior college, I felt like I need to earn money. So I started working as a advertising marketing executive. I actually still have that visiting card. Of course, pretended to be all grown up. I used
So
to.
this was 16, age 16 or
At
17?
16, I started working at this
Wow.
multimedia firm called Dr. Neeraj's Multimedia Studios. And yeah, I worked with him for a year and I started earning my first salary at 16. And then during this time, I started getting offers to model, and I appeared in some campaigns. I used to take the overnight bus from Hyderabad to Bangalore alone, travel by road, reach Bangalore, shoot for whatever the campaign was, and then take the night bus back to Hyderabad. I think back now and I wonder, my God, my parents really had courage and conviction, and I can't imagine letting my child travel
I
alone.
think confidence in
And
you, Diya, I think.
confidence. No, I would say courage also, because you know you're traveling alone on an overnight
Yeah.
bus. You have to have that, just that faith and confidence, yes, but also that courage to say, no, I'm going to let my child go and learn and gain her experiences on her own. And so I started working this way, and that's how actually the Miss India happened. I got a offer to be a part of the contest. I wasn't part of that process where there are many girls who go through a qualifying process. I just got the chance to directly participate because of the campaigns that appeared in and the work that I'd already done. But interestingly, the Times of India had featured the woman of the millennium, the different roles of the woman of the millennium: the working woman, the independent woman, the homemaker, the parent. And it was when I was doing this photo shoot that the journalist got talking with me, and she said she discovered that I was actually holding a job and working at 16. And so she said, I want to do an interview with you. And that interview actually is what got me a place at the Miss India pageant.
Wow. So few incidents that changed your life. I think this was the one. You then moved to Bollywood, which I think is a natural transition from being a beauty queen. I think that was everyone was doing that at that point of time. But tell us a bit about Bollywood, ups and downs there. And more importantly, what I'm very keen to hear from you is you're doing so much more now, all your social work. I'm pretty much sure when you meet people, they first see you as an actor and second as a social person performing all these wonderful roles that you are doing right now. So do you get upset that, I'm doing so much more than my previous avatar? I'm doing so much more. I'm representing the country in different ways, but people just don't see me in that particular avatar today. They see me more as an actor, and you have to sort of tell them about your work. Is that something that happens to you?
No, not at all.
No,
Not at
not at all. So,
all.
okay, lovely.
No.
But tell us about Bollywood, dear.
Well, like you mentioned, it was almost a natural progression, because after I won the Miss India, I started getting offers in the year as Miss India, and of course we had to hold off those offers. And after I won the Miss Asia Pacific, I came back, and I've always had a love for the performing arts. Like I mentioned, I was in theater in school right through, and really enjoyed being in plays. And when I got this opportunity to be in film, I think I very immediately recognized what a privilege it was, because there are thousands of people who struggle to find a place and one opportunity to be in a film, and how difficult it is for so many of them. And I was just grateful that there were so many offers coming to me, and that I have the privilege to say yes or no, or determine whether this is something I wanted to do. And I made a promise to my mother that I would pursue my education privately. I would continue to study, because that was a very important aspect, and she really wanted me to continue to learn. And I joined the films, and I actually, while I was in workshops preparing for my first film, I signed my second film, and ended up shooting my second film even before I started shooting my first film. So it was, many things happened very rapidly. So at 19, I moved to Mumbai. I learned, I found my own home to live in, figured out how to book my own gas supply, how to get my own phone connection, how to manage my finances, how to, I drove around, I got to work, I would go back home and clean my house. And then there were these very, very amazing opportunities that were rapidly opening up. And I think for the large part, I learned how to be or act for the camera on the job. So it's really the first three films that I did that gave me the opportunity to learn and understand, acha, this is what a frame is, this is what lensing is, this is what lighting is, this is how it is a collaborative effort, that, you know, it's not all glamorous and beautiful. There's a lot of hard work that goes into this. And I think I discovered my love and my passion for storytelling while I was on the job. And Rehna Hai Tere Dil Mein was my first film that has gone on to becoming a cult film. But when it released, it failed at the box office. And it was a huge disappointment, because after you have experienced such a big high of winning an international pageant, winning hearts, winning over people, being everybody's favorite, being in the media and the spotlight for all the right things, suddenly an association of failure or something that, and it, actors can take it very personally because the media makes it very personal. um, Whereas when in fact we shouldn't be making it personal, because it's a job that we're
Right.
all a part of. And I think in my very first year, again, I learned a very tough and a very important lesson, that I could not allow the image that other people had of me to define me. And especially now more so than ever before, because I was a part of the public eye. And so other people's idea of what is successful or not successful cannot define my idea of success. So I remember being asked by Shabana Azmi while we were filming a movie called Tehzeeb,
Yes.
do you want to be an actor or a star? And I found it to be a very interesting question. I said, what does it mean? Why is it different? Are they two separate things? So she said, yes, they can be. I said, but I want to be an actor who, if I'm good at what I do, if I do become a star, that's great. But I want to be an actor because that's what I love. I love the job. I love the craft of performing for the camera. I love storytelling. And I think that was a very important answer for me to find for myself, because that is what then determined a lot of my choices and helped me understand what it is that I was pursuing as an individual. It was not, it, I would say that the first 5 years of my career were a struggle, because I was very young. I was learning to understand what it is that I wanted to do or could do. I did spend a lot of time honing my craft. I did workshops, acting workshops, dance workshops. I learned all kinds of new skills because I felt like I was lacking in certain areas. But what I also learned with Rehna Hai Tere Dil Mein was that in the last 20 years, the one film that people immediately identify with me is that film. And it's gone on to becoming a cult film. So even though it failed at the box office, it's earned an extraordinary amount of love through time. So if you do work that you enjoy and you love and it's out there, it will find its love and its opportunity at the time that it needs to. It may not happen then and there. I think that was another very important takeaway. People have associated me with the work that I do outside of film very strongly because I started very early in my career.
Yes.
And I think because of my social media platforms now also, there's just anybody who follows me on social media knows that I work in environment protection, I work in wildlife conservation. Film and storytelling and the arts are a very integral tool and part of the work that I do outside of film. And the show that I did, whether it was Ganga, the Soul of India, I don't know if you've seen it. I hope your students watch it because it's a very powerful travel journey that started at the source of the Ganga all the way to sea. And it was my first outing in television. And I think what I've managed to do is define my purpose and identify what are the spheres of life that really cultivate and contribute to um, my growth. And I found an interesting balance to take that forward through even the stories that I choose to tell.
So even in the last film,
That's what I've noticed that with Kafir as well. You know, the kind of subject and the narrative and the way the character understands or speaks of nature and environment, even in the subtext of dialogue. I think as an individual, you just find a way to weave it into the other work that you do. So it's all seamlessly becomes one entity.
You know, we are going to switch gears a little, and I'm going to request Poonam to ask a few questions. Poonam does a lot of work, social work, and I think she is itching to ask you a few questions. So, Poonam, over to you.
yes. In fact, Diya, it was Pradeep Sangwan who connected me to your office. I'm sure you know that.
Yes.
And I was having a big laugh with Pradeep because I told him that to connect with Diya, it took me only 2 weeks. But to connect with you, it took me 2 years. Because, Pradeep is so choosy about the people he works with because he's very focused and very genuine about his work. And he doesn't want too many people to be associated. But since the time we started working with him and, he's seen purpose in our work. So we've done a lot of cleaning up campaigns in the Himalayas and continue to do so. But right now, because of COVID, we are all indoors. So when you were talking about purpose, I just wanted to ask you about the movie Thappad, where we saw you very recently. And I'd like to show you a small clip that doesn't have you in it, but I want to talk about the message that gets conveyed in this.
Sure.
So we'll just play that 1 minute clip, please.
Sir, this is absolutely not fair. Sir, उस डिपार्टमेंट का मेरी प्रमोशन से क्या लेना देना है?
ऑफिस का फ्रस्ट्रेशन. मैंने पूछा क्या बात हुई, तो बोले मुझे समझ नहीं आएगा. अब बताओगे ही नहीं तो क्या? Alcohol consumption is injurious to health. Disclaimer डालना पड़ेगा. Okay, एक मिनट.
Hey, sir, I call you right back.
हाँ, तो मैं क्या कह रही थी कि अगर बताओगे ही नहीं तो क्या? ओह, सिगरेट स्मोकिंग का भी डिस्क्लेमर डालना पड़ेगा.
क्या पागल हो गई हो क्या?
एक मिनट रुको. थप्पड़ पे डिस्क्लेमर नहीं है. ओह, ओके, मारो.
क्या डिस्क्लेमर?
जिन फिल्मों में डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस के सीन होते हैं, थिएटर में उन फिल्मों के पहले तो कोई डिस्क्लेमर नहीं आता है, जैसे कि नो एनिमल्स वर हार्म्ड ड्यूरिंग द मेकिंग ऑफ दिस फिल्म जैसा डिस्क्लेमर. शायद थप्पड़ इन सब के सामने एक छोटी सी बात है. नहीं, अगर आपको लगता है कि थप्पड़ बड़ी बात है और सिगरेट और अल्कोहल के अलावा डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस का भी डिस्क्लेमर आना चाहिए, तो प्लीज पिटीशन साइन कीजिए. थप्पड़ बस इतनी सी बात नहीं है.
So you rose your voice against domestic violence in that film, and which I anyways think all of us should be doing in our real life. So do you think that cinema like Thappad will help? And I think, or you would probably agree that it's a very understated problem in our society. We talk a whole lot of things, but domestic violence is somehow buried under the carpet. So would films like this help to bring problems like this into the mainstream, into the public eye?
I think storytelling and filmmaking is a very powerful tool for social change. There are many issues that we are confronted by, and domestic violence is definitely one of the most ugly forms of society. And there is data available right now and statistics that indicate that the rate of domestic violence has gone up exponentially because of the lockdown. And it is films and subjects like Thappad that um, give people the opportunity to internalize, to understand, and hopefully empower women and men and families to make better choices. I think the kind of overwhelmingly insightful responses that we got from the audiences that watched Thappad, letters and notes, and women who had suffered domestic violence, people who have had witnessed domestic violence. It it did think to different things for different people, and I think in many ways it kind of not just opened up a conversation, but really highlighted how patriarchy is so deeply woven into the way we think and we feel and we function as a people. So, yes, domestic violence was an important part of the narrative, but I think what the narrative explored even more deeply was patriarchy. And domestic violence is born out of this, this terrible idea that a, a particular person is more powerful than another person and can get away by abusing that power. And I really hope that we continue to tell such stories, because change doesn't happen overnight. People, societies, and cultures don't change overnight. Patriarchy, unfortunately, has been a part of our culture for hundreds of years. It will take a lot of work for us to build and create a more equal society for men and women. And I'm just glad that a lot of the younger generation is beginning to understand what patriarchy is beginning to understand what feminism is beginning to understand what's right and what's wrong. But I think the one fundamental message that we've been conveying through this lockdown, through all our communication platforms, is if you witness a crime against a woman, domestic violence, speak about it, report it. If you are, you know dealing with domestic violence, you must reach out to someone, tell the person what you're experiencing. There is always help available. I think most women feel embarrassed uh, because they are society, वो घर की बात घर में ही रहे तो बेहतर है, ये जो सोच है इसको बदलना बहुत जरूरी है.
I think it's such a motivating thought right now for all the young girls who are watching you, Dia. First of all, you becoming independent, standing on your feet, woman empowerment through the thoughts that you just gave. Absolutely. I'm getting goose pimples. I always say this, but truly today I am. Absolutely wonderful thoughts. Poonam, you had more questions.
Yes, I think I'll ask her one last question and then we'll shift to the audience. Otherwise, they'll kill us for not giving them time. So, I was going through your Instagram series that's Down to Earth with D. And I was quite amazed. I saw Zoya, I saw Shreya Ghoshal, I saw your favorite co-star Madhwan. And Madhwan was complimenting you and saying that you actually walk the talk because you believe in doing, what you talk about. So, we live in the hills and things here are getting from bad to worse because of tourism, because of the trees Atul was mentioning in the morning we cut down. So as an individual, any suggestions or, thoughts for us as to what each one of us can do to contribute to make this world a better place?
I think for all the people I've ever engaged with or interacted with who are making a difference in the world, the one thing that I recognize as a unifying thought is that we perceive ourselves as citizens of the planet. Home to me is this. Home to me is not the square foot area that I occupy, or the neighborhood I live in, or the country that I live in. Home to me is this planet as a whole. And everything that we hope for from life, whether it is success, whether it is well-being, health, opportunity, everything is provided to us by nature. And if we just worked and lived and moved forward with that understanding, that respect, that compassion, we would just become, we would automatically become better citizens of the planet. Uh, a lot of people have a misplaced idea कि मेरे एक के कुछ करने से क्या फर्क पड़ेगा, बहुत फर्क पड़ सकता है. So when I started segregating waste at home, the rest of the people in my building weren't doing it. It took a few months to help and teach everybody to adopt this new way of life. It's been 5 years now. We all segregate waste. It happens efficiently. We are proud that we compost our waste. We've managed to create even deeper segregation. So e-waste gets segregated, paper waste gets segregated. I'm giving you a very small example. So change starts with the understanding that health and life and livelihood and growth and success and progress comes from nature, and we need to treat the environment and nature better. And the moment that happens, we will find ways, individual ways to make that difference, whether it's Pradeep Sangwan, who's, you know, leading these volunteer groups to clean up the plastic waste in the Himalayas. Now we're going beyond that. She's creating centers that are going to manage that waste. So each one of us has our evolution and growth, and we will keep finding solutions so long as we understand that our lives are connected directly to nature. We are not separate from nature, we're part of nature. And everything that we do to the natural environment, we're in fact doing to ourselves. And we have a bigger role to play. And I think it is man's arrogance and ignorance that has led us where we are. Today, the world is experiencing the crisis that it is because of that arrogance. And if there is one thing that we can do better now, and you don't have to be a biologist, you don't have to be a scientist, you could be in any sphere, any walk of life. You can use the tools that are accessible to you, your knowledge, your I mean, a lot of people say you're an actor. How did you become an environmentalist? Because of my love for nature, because of my passion for nature. Now I am finding ways to combine this passion and this love and this understanding with the work that I do, with some of the things that I can do well. And one of those things may be communication. So I think it starts fundamentally from the desire to make a difference, because if we don't start acting at an individual level to create change today, we will continue to suffer. And I don't refer to suffering and crisis in the future, because it's a current situation. We're in this together right now. Climate is changing. There is a lot happening around us, and it's been caused by environmental degradation and habitat loss. And we have the responsibility, the shared responsibility to fix this, because we can. Because nature is an incredible self-repairing system. Wherever we've given nature the opportunity to grow back, to rejuvenate, she has. And I think that should be another inspiration for all of us.
Absolutely true, Diya. And I have to tell you, Poonam has been the leader behind all the efforts that Shoolini does. We plant more than 15 to 20,000 trees every year. We clean the nearby nalas. We are cleaning the forests around, all with the students. And it's not just cleaning the environment, but I think getting the students engaged, making them better human beings. So it's an effort from our side, and all that you say makes so much sense.
In fact, I must tell you that, it has a huge impact when my kids go out. We do a lot of work for cancer awareness in Himachal. We are the only ones who work with Yuvraj Singh's foundation, UV Can. So we do a lot of work for cancer awareness. I'm a cancer survivor myself. So it's a cause very deeply embedded in my heart. And nature, and then spending time with senior citizens, to sort of make them feel happy and better than life. And then we have a hospital of muscular dystrophy here, where we have kids from all over India coming, and my volunteers go there and spend time with them. So, we made social projects a credit course. So, एक तो ये है कि mandatory करना पड़ता है. But I'm also very proud of the fact that every time I put out a post saying that, we are going here to the hospital or to Pradeep's place for cleaning up, I have to do a cutoff of students because there's so many of them who want to. And the kind of impact that this kind of work has on my students, I don't think I feel that the lessons learned outside the class are far more important. Atul may disagree with
Poonam, no. I agree with you. I agree with you. And I have to also tell you, Poonam, that there are more than 1,000. Go ahead. Sorry, dear.
Physical participation, the individual joy that you get
absolutely
from working in collaboration with other people, but knowing that you can make a difference is a very empowering feeling. And also, I think in many ways, it gives you that sense of connection with people. We talk about it. It's not a philosophy. It's the truth. We are one people, one planet. And when we help each other and we become a part of a solution or a system or create systems that can solve problems, there is nothing more elevating to the spirit than that.
I'm going to switch to Q&A from the audience. I think we've got another 10, 12 minutes left. And I'll request you to make them short because I'd like to cover all the questions we have, like 7, 8 so far. So Vivek Atre from the Vibrant Forum, Chandigarh, and a very dear friend is asking, were you always motivated for the humanitarian cause, or did you feel obligated after winning the title?
No, I have never done anything out of obligation. I only do things that give me joy. And I think it is my upbringing and the values that were taught to me that helped me understand what we just spoke about a little while ago, that the most elevating, most uplifting actions in life are those that help others. And, and working with the community gives you the sense of community. It gives you perspective. It keeps you connected with reality. And I think that also helps you grow individually. So I always say that I'm greedy for good. And I totally believe in the virtue of selfishness, because at the end of the day, whenever we make a difference in someone's life, we do it also primarily because it makes us feel good about ourselves.
Absolutely true. And I think this is a related question that Deepak Singhi is asking. Probably you already answered this, Dia. He's saying, you've got such a glow on your face, you've got such wonderful vibes. What are the internal mechanisms that bring so much positivity? Do you meditate, Dia?
Yes, Deepak, I do. I meditate, I do yoga. I think one of the key reasons to, I mean, we all want happiness. We're all seeking happiness. But I think what I've realized helps me remain positive and productive is, of course, finding balance. So interacting with nature, whether it is walking bare feet in the grass in the garden or just watching the birds or watching a sunrise or a sunset, because I live in a city, unlike all of you lucky people who are in the mountains. I feel that to never hold a grudge, to never feel resentment is a very powerful tool, no matter what anyone has done to you. Letting things go, like not holding on to any negative emotion, because I feel like that just creates an environment of toxicity inside you. It doesn't help anyone. So I keep an open heart, and I love even those who have hurt me.
So Varsha is asking a question which I think you just answered related to this. She's Varsha Sharma. She's saying, how does Driya Mirza cope with stress and failures?
I meditate. I communicate. I think communication is very important, especially with those that you love and trust and respect. Mentors are very important. Having a larger, being a part of a larger purpose, or being a part of a big solution, can really reduce your personal identification to stresses. It gives you the opportunity to kind of, just like my father said, that you're just a dot. uh, so never allowing your ego to kind of take over, because I feel like a lot of the times failure, regret, pain are also deeply connected with the ego. So yeah,
Wow.
I've learned to watch my ego.
Arvind Nanda, who happens to be Poonam's husband, also part of Shoolini, is asking a question. And I
Yes.
have to ask this, otherwise Poonam will kill me.
Yes, please. Otherwise, he will not
Uh,
know me or you.
yes, next time he won't allow you. So Arvind is asking, Diya, tell us about some of the work you're doing for promoting animal rights and wildlife, and how do I participate in this?
Arvind, thank you for asking this, because I think it'll be an opportunity for everybody who is watching this to also take part. I work with the Wildlife Trust of India, and I work with Sanctuary Nature Foundation. Of course, I work with the United Nations Environment Program, but that's largely big campaigns, policy, working with bureaucrats, engaging with governments. That's separate work. But the work that I do with Wildlife Trust of India and Sanctuary Nature Foundation is the kind of work that anybody can get involved with. You can volunteer, you can donate funds, you can become a part of their online campaigns. This time, during the pandemic, has been a extraordinary time for environmental action and animal protection, because we have witnessed more participation now than ever before. So if you want to make a difference for the planet and for people, please identify a non-government organization, a volunteer group. I would say Sanctuary Nature Foundation, because they have over 38 years of work experience in India. They connect you to the most important campaigns, and they're really making a big difference in educating and empowering people. Wildlife Trust of India is doing extraordinary work in dealing with wildlife crime investigation. There's rescue and rehabilitation work for wildlife, and uh, they're a phenomenal organization, and I would recommend that you work with them.
Absolutely. Another question related to this is the green cause that is closest to your heart, Diya. Out of all the different things you do, what are you closest to?
ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता,
ऐसा नहीं होता.
ऐसे हो ही नहीं सकता, because prakriti, paryavaran, it's one thing, right? It's one system. So whether we are beating plastic pollution, or we are encouraging people to plant more trees, or we are going, you know uh, we are all working towards the sustainable development goals and working towards a more sustainable future. So it could be innovation, it could be wildlife protection, habitat protection, raising awareness on air pollution or plastic pollution or water pollution, soil pollution. It's all connected. Nothing weighs is more important than the other. It's all equally important to me.
You spoke about woman empowerment. You spoke about domestic violence, Diya. So Vivek is actually asking a very interesting question. He's saying, I have two daughters. What are the two most important values that they should adopt in their lives?
Empathy and
Very.
sorry, what were you saying, Poonamji?
I said very important.
Most important.
Yes.
Most important. I honestly don't think there is a more powerful value than empathy. If we have empathy, then we just automatically become better human beings. Everything else can be learned.
So you've given the right answer to Vivek. Diya. Vivek is an ex-IS officer, very dear friend, and he's a TEDx speaker on empathy. He speaks about empathy all the time. So Vivek, you got the answer. It is empathy. So you're on the right course, Vivek. We don't have time for answering all the questions. I'll just read out the names of the people who've asked questions as Dr. Vivek Rana, Vanshika, Dr. Rajesh, Pradeep, Vinay, Khushi, Varsha, Manav, Emma, Arvind, of course, we answered yours. Khushi, Akhil, Poonam, Rakesh, Shelly, Akhil, Anuja. Arvind has got many, many more. And Manav. So thank you so much for all the different questions you're asking. But sorry, we don't have enough time. We've got 2 more minutes left. And I would like Poonam to ask her last question, and then I have mine. Poonam, over to you.
Yes. So the kind of work that you're doing and the kind of grounded person you are, I mean, you're so completely unlike famous celebrity, film star, model, whatever. Honestly, I'm so, I want, maybe it's cliched, sound karta if I say I'm impressed, but honestly, I mean, I had just heard things about you and read all this, but today talking to you has been an amazing experience. So just your thoughts to the students today, because going through this time that we are, the COVID turmoil that's happening, a lot of uncertainty, jobs, placements, education, going abroad, coming back home, whatever. So it's very easy for students to get into a depressive mode. So any thoughts of yours that to keep them grounded and to keep their motivation levels high?
I feel the attitude of gratitude is the most important attitude in life to have. It's especially during this time. I think it's very important if you can find a few minutes in the day to close your eyes and think of all that you are grateful for. Like physically name each and everything, whether it's the food on your plate or the home you're living in or the family that you're surrounded by and the friends in your life, the love in your life, whatever it is. Name the things that you are grateful for every day. Think of that. Don't think too much about the future. Think about the day to day and focus on the day that you have in front of you. Exercise, do yoga if you can, meditate, hone your skills. There is nothing more empowering in this life than to hone your skills. And this is the time to hone your skills. And don't expose yourself to the news and the media. That can be very overwhelming. Read trusted news platforms. Read only what is essential to your understanding what's happening. Don't burden yourself with too much information. And stay connected with the people that you love and your friends and your teachers, and yes, if you can be a part of a solution even remotely, do it. It'll give you a lot of strength.
Lovely.
Wonderful. So I think we're coming to an end, and I'd like to make 2 observations, Diya. First is the music, the background music when you speak, which is the birds chirping. It is so wonderful.
Yes.
Some people might find it irritating, but I just love it. I think it just makes me feel that we're in a jungle and we're in the middle of nature. So beautiful. Seldom has happened on a webinar. So thank you for that. The second is, you're so articulate, Diya. You should think about becoming a teacher too. We'd love to have you take some courses at Shoolini.
Well, we teach best what we most need to learn. And
So
I am
wonderful.
a permanent seeker. I'm always seeking and learning. But I would love to come and visit the university and spend time there and learn from all of you and learn from the students.
Fantastic. I'm going to request you, if you have the time, we have a small video that you sent on the environment. If I can play 2 minutes of that before we say goodbye.
Which one are you going to play, Atul?
This is called Shreyaji _.
Oh, so you're basically playing a wild anthem that I produced for India.
Yes.
In fact, don't play 2 minutes, play the whole thing.
Okay.
it's a magical, natural representation of what makes India India.
Lovely.
Okay, let me see if I can pull it up. Give me 1 second.
It's called Mere
Alright.
Desh Ki Zameen, and we released it on the 15th of August in 2018.
Yes, Janisha was telling me about it.
You have to see young children when they watch this video, the oohs and ahs.
No, I watched it. It was so amazing. You know, we did some pre-run before this. I got goosebumps. Here it is.
Oh, that always fills my heart with joy.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Uh, so that's what I meant. You don't need to be a scientist or a biologist. You just have to be somebody who loves, and you will find a way to express that love.
So amazing. You know, I was thinking, Poonam, when Dia comes over to Shoolini and Solan, or when we do this again over a webinar, we have to have our students sing this anthem. It'll be so amazing.
Oh, that would be so wonderful. I'm sure.
Some amazing singing talent.
No, it's the singers who sung this song are India's finest artists, and they all did it out of the goodness of their heart. And Prasoon Joshi Saab wrote the lyrics for this song, and Clinton Cerejo, who's also a very, very prolific composer, composed it. And I find that whenever I seek collaborations that involve making a difference, uh, people just come together. It happens like magic. And I think that's the power of goodness.
Thank you, Dia. What a wonderful, wonderful last 1 hour, 10 minutes. We've taken 10 more extra minutes from you. Thank you so much. Mind blowing. That's all I'll say. We have to catch you again, somehow convince you to be part of this platform again. I'm sure some people missed you, so they'd love to hear you again. There are around 1,000 odd students and teachers right now with us. So thank you, all the participants. Thank you, faculty, students. And Dia, we're all blushing, we're all loving what you all said. And I also would like to add that wildlife, environment, social causes are very, very dear to Shoolini. So we'd also love to collaborate, and Poonam separately will reach out to Dia and make sure that your agenda is carried forward in this part of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.